My parents kicked me out on my birthday to make room for my sister's baby. Later, they begged me to return. I turned 16 just a week ago. There was no party, no celebration. My parents barely even acknowledged my birthday before kicking me out of the house. The reason? My older sister Amanda. She's always been my parents' favorite, and now, at 7 months pregnant, they wanted me to move out so her baby could have my room. Our house has 4 bedrooms, and instead of using the guest room for the nursery, they decided it would be better for me to live with my aunt. My parents have never really cared about me. They've always done the bare minimum, but this was shocking, even for them. I asked why they couldn't just use the guest room, and they explained it was for Amanda's boyfriend to stay with them. So my parents had their own room, my sister and her boyfriend had another, and the baby would get its own room. Amanda wasn't even home during this discussion, and I suspect it was so she wouldn't feel guilty. While Amanda and I were never close due to our age gap, she had never been awful to me. We were civil to each other, but if she was okay with this arrangement, then maybe she wasn't the person I thought she was. I was disappointed, especially because it was my birthday, but I didn't say a word and just agreed to leave. I've realized by now that my parents are a lost cause. There's nothing I can say to make them love me, and I've accepted that. After they told me I needed to move out, I went up to my room and started packing. They helped me pack, likely just to get me out of the house quicker. They even dropped me off at my aunt's house, chatting happily during the car ride, completely oblivious to my silence. My aunt welcomed me warmly. She genuinely enjoys my company and loves me more than my parents do. After a while, I told her how disappointed I was with my parents. She was shocked and asked me to repeat what I had said. When I did, her smile vanished, and she immediately went to make a phone call. I didn't hear much, but soon after, I heard her yelling on the phone, which was rare for her. She's usually soft-spoken, so I knew someone must have really angered her. When she returned, she was still upset. She told me that my dad had lied to her, saying I had suggested the arrangement and was happy to move out. My aunt, being single and childless, thought taking me in would be like having a roommate and agreed to it because she believed I wanted to live with her. Now that she knew the truth, she called my dad to confront him. It was messed up that they lied to cover up their horrible decision. I felt hurt. My parents had chosen to give up the guest room for Amanda's boyfriend, who's in his 20s, has a job, and his own apartment. Amanda could have easily moved in with him, but my parents insisted she stay with them, even at the cost of my comfort. I decided to expose my parents online. I wasn't sure if my aunt would support it, so I waited until she was taking a nap. I typed out everything that had happened, along with how my parents have always treated me like a second-class citizen in my own home. I had a breakdown while typing, and by the time I posted it, I was in tears. I turned off my phone afterwards, scared of the repercussions. When my aunt woke up, she calmly asked if I had posted something online. I admitted that I had, and there was no further discussion. Later, when I turned my phone back on, I saw the post had been seen by many family members. I received numerous texts, some supportive, some hateful. My parents were furious, demanding I take the post down, and my dad even said he wished I had never been born. My sister's messages were different. She wanted to talk in person. I was overwhelmed and didn't respond to anyone for days. I eventually blocked my parents, knowing they were legally obligated to support me until I turned 18, and didn't see any reason to keep in contact. My aunt supported this decision, and we acted like nothing had happened. A week passed with no contact, but then my parents showed up outside my school looking pissed. My friends, who knew the situation, surrounded me, acting as a shield, but my parents kept yelling my name, so I walked over and told them I didn't want anything to do with them. They insisted I come home with them immediately, but I refused until they explained what was going on. They told me that after my post, the family found out, including my grandparents, who are wealthy. They had threatened to cut off my dad's inheritance if he didn't reconcile with me. My grandparents warned that if my parents didn't treat me better, the inheritance would go to my aunt instead, who was taking care of me. My parents couldn't afford to lose that money, but even then, they couldn't hide that this was about their benefit, not mine. I walked away, ignoring their pleas, and returned to my aunt's house, where I told her what happened. She contacted a lawyer to see if my custody could be transferred to her. I also called my grandparents to thank them for their support and told them I didn't want to go back to my parents. Living with them had been suffocating, and I finally felt free at my aunt's house. My grandparents reassured me that they would ensure I could stay with my aunt and that everything I needed would be paid for by them. I felt hopeful, but a few hours later I received an email from my dad. It wasn't hateful, but it was disappointing. He said there was no need for me to make the situation public, as it caused unnecessary drama in their lives. Even his co-workers had found out, making things difficult for him at work. He blamed me for the fallout, which felt unfair. He didn't seem to grasp the severity of what he and my mom had done to me. Update 1. Thank you, everyone, for your kind words and support on my original post. I've been getting a lot of questions, so I wanted to clarify a few things. Some of you asked why I hadn't left my parents' house before this, especially since my grandparents and aunt seemed willing to help. The truth is, I was never treated cruelly. I was just ignored and unwanted. For a long time, I convinced myself that this was enough. I had a roof over my head and food to eat, so I didn't think I needed to feel loved or cared for. I didn't realize I was being neglected because it had become so normal for me. My aunt didn't offer to take me in earlier because she didn't want to insult my parents and she wasn't sure if I'd want to live with her. Now that everything is out in the open, my aunt is working with a lawyer to transfer custody to her. It won't be easy, as my parents will fight it due to the inheritance, but I know my grandparents and aunt will support me. My aunt has been very apologetic, realizing how neglected I was, and regrets not intervening sooner. As for my sister, she texted me saying she wanted to talk in person. I ignored her at first, but a few days later she texted again asking me to visit. I decided to call and ask why she wanted to see me. To my surprise, she was living with her boyfriend and wasn't feeling well enough to go out, so she asked me to visit her at his place. When I arrived, she apologized for never speaking up for me, even though she knew our parents were playing favorites. She admitted that she had always felt uncomfortable confronting them and had let things slide because I seemed okay with the way I was treated. But after my post, she realized how wrong it was and wanted to make amends. She also told me that she hadn't been involved in the decision to kick me out. Our parents hadn't discussed it with her, and she was shocked to find out about it. She had planned to move in with her boyfriend after the baby was born, but our parents insisted she stay with them longer. After my post, she realized she couldn't continue living there and moved out within a week. She had a huge fight with our parents, who accused her of being ungrateful and selfish. We talked things out, and I forgave her. She promised to be there for me from now on, and that meant a lot to me. It's been a little less than a week since my original post, and I haven't heard from my parents since the email. Update 2. Just 3 days have passed since my last update, and today my aunt told me that my parents have agreed to give up their parental rights. The paperwork will be completed soon, and my aunt will take over my custody. I have mixed feelings. I'm happy to finally have a home where I feel wanted, but also sad and empty that it had to come to this. But I know this is for the best. This is what I wanted. Update 3. A couple of weeks have passed since my last update, and I'm adjusting to life with my aunt. She's been wonderful. She gives me space when I need it, but is always there when I want to talk. We've started to redecorate my room together, and it's been fun to have someone who genuinely cares about my opinion. My grandparents have been very supportive, and I've been spending a lot of time with them. As for my parents, I haven't heard from them since they gave up their rights. Even though they were never loving, they were still my parents, and it hurts to know they chose money over me. Final update. It's been a few months since my last update, and I wanted to share how things are going. I've settled into my new life with my aunt, and I couldn't be happier. My grandparents have been amazing, and my sister has kept her promise to be there for me. We're closer than ever now, and I've even been helping her prepare for the baby's arrival. I'm doing well in school, and my aunt and grandparents have been helping me explore colleges. I'm excited to start this new chapter in my life, and I finally feel like I have a bright future ahead of me. As for my parents, I've accepted that they're no longer part of my life. I've blocked them on all social media. Thank you again to everyone who has supported me through this journey.